Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the live match thoughts for the game yesterday against Manchester United, where we lost 3-0 in. It's a disappointing game, to say the least. Disappointing in more the fact that it really felt like we could have taken something from that game, especially going off what we saw early on anyway. It really looked like at points that we could take something from that game and that we could really put the pressure on Man United. Or besides the freak goal, arguably one of the best goals I've ever seen. Maybe one of the best goals in the history of the Premier League. Looking at it, how good it was from Garnacho, but that was a difficult start to the game. But I felt like it was really a lot more positives than negatives from there. I feel like the team played well, and that's if that's just a basic summary of how the game was to start off. But if we feel like if we want to get into things here and really talk about what happened in the game, really, then we need to talk actually about the players that were playing and what actually happened. And I feel like there's no way of really avoiding it than starting off by talking about that goal from Garnacho. Again, probably one of the best goals I've ever seen. It was ridiculous. It was unbelievable. To say it looked like the cross was hit as well. It wasn't the best cross at all from Dalot, and the fact that Garnacho still got up to that, the athleticism on display for that, it's one of those where after we conceded it, there was really nothing we could say, nothing really to complain about, because the fact that I don't think anyone on planet Earth expected that to go in, including Garnacho himself, and you could tell by his reaction. But it was a disappointing start. I think it was one of those where I think fans went into this, and of course, there's no way of talking about this game without talking about the points deduction, without talking about the fact that this game was important, not because of the fact that we had 10 points stolen from us and of course, Luton winning their game, edging themselves, closer and closer away from the relegation zone, which within the position we're in right now is something we can't really afford. But yeah, like David puts, scored against England's number one keeper. It was special. It was again probably one of the best goals in Premier League history, and I don't feel like that's any sort of recency bias or anything like that. I think it was just that good of a goal. But this was the team Everton lined up with, and I think, to be honest, I think it was a good lineup. I think it was a good start 11. I'm not massively sure what was happening with Onana and things like that. To be completely honest with you, I wasn't completely sure, so it's hard to really gauge what was happening. But yeah, again, I think I'm guessing it was injuries, but this felt like the strongest lineup we could have put out. If I scroll down a little bit to make it a bit, I'm not a huge fan of Ashley Young at right back, and we'll get into Ashley Young when we talk about the actual players, but I think it was one of those where we were really in a position that we felt like we could take the game to United a little bit. United have been on good form in a sense of if you look at the form table and if you look at the results, but it never really felt like Man United took the game to their opponents. It never really felt like Man United dominated teams in a sense, if that makes sense. It didn't feel like one of those where this was a team that was going to come to Goodison Park and, be all over us and control the game and be one of those games where we really struggle against. And it wasn't, in a sense. I think the scoreline says that we were the inferior team, but again, I don't think that's true. I think it was just another case of watching Everton play and watching Everton not take their chances. And then, it's a freak goal for the first one, a penalty for the second, which, again, we'll get into later with Ashley Young's just horrendous decision making. And then the third one was just, again, that was just part and parcel of the fact that we were trying to get a goal back in the game. So it was one of those where we weren't really going to get anything from it at that point because that was it. But, like I said, that first goal, some nice play down that side from United, some nice link up between Rashford and Dalot. Dalot plays across that in my opinion, wasn't a good cross. It looked like it was veering away from Garnacho. It looked like it was something that he shouldn't have been able to get onto. The cross was still high in the air and curving away at that point. And of course, Garnacho miraculously managed to get to it and managed to hit that overhead kick and go in. But again, some nice link up from Rashford and Dalot. Again, there's nothing we really could have done about it. I guess you could say someone that could have put a man on Garnacho, but I don't think, if you're a defender watching that, you're never expecting Garnacho to get to that. The way it flew past Pickford, no keeper in the world saving that. So again, it's hard to really judge any of the players on that. It's hard to really, knuckle down that this was anyone's fault. Again, sometimes you just concede those. Sometimes this just happens, and there's nothing you can really do about it. We move on into the game, and it's, if we scroll down a little bit more here so we can get this, in these early periods here, you see it's more back and forth, but then it starts around here, around that 15-minute mark, it feels like we really start to take over and that we're comfortably the better side. Ashley Young gets a silly yellow card around the 20th minute. Similarly, Decore not long later gets a silly yellow card, and, I felt like that really took the pressure out of our attack. It didn't let Decore dive in as much a little to really cause pressure, to really, he chased after Onana, and there were a few points where where the attackers were able to cause problems with the pressing, which we've seen against Man United plenty of times this season, that they struggle against a team that's going to press them. They struggle against a team that's going to really, in a sense, be on the front foot with that pressing and constantly not giving them time on the ball. But I also felt like there were moments where we gave them too much time on the ball to play it around from the back. The players can't run around for 90 minutes consistently and just keep running at full speed. But you kind of expect, in certain circumstances, with a goalkeeper who's been as mistake-proof as Onana has, and I think Onana's been, that game was great for Man United. I think he really helped keep them in the game. I think probably one of his best performances in Man United shirt this season, which is typical it coming against us. But, it really felt like in that first half we were the better side, and if we scroll down a little more here, we have it. It's I saw something that I know not everyone's a big fan of XG. I know not everyone is a huge advocate for XG and what it portrays, but at half-time, that was I believe the lowest XG Man United had in a half of football in 18 months. And just our luck, they had a goal out of that 0.09 XG. I think it was just one of those where it's just, it just happens. It was an overhead kick from near the edge of the box. It was a freak thing. And again, it was one of those where even as a fan of the opposition team, you had to admire it because the goal was that good. But again, that first half, it had a lot of positives. And you can see the heat maps here. You have one freak shot from, you have one freak shot from Shaw here that goes over quite comfortably. But then you're seeing some of the chances we missed, like this one with McNeil. I think it was saved. You're looking at some of these areas where we're shooting Calvert-Lewin, which this was another header for Calvert-Lewin from the corner. I just feel like in that first half, chances really weren't taken, and there was one shot, I think it was here from Idrissa Gueye. That's the one. This one for me, it was, I don't know how he put it that far wide and over. I think it was actually quite impressive that he didn't manage to get that shot on target, and I think it's quite impressive the fact that he didn't manage to at least put that shot on target. I think. But I think it was that first half we just really didn't take our chances. And you look at these two big chances missed, 1.43 XG. It's just one of those where we really didn't take the chances when they came to us. And, you look at it, man, probably should have been 2-3-1 to us by half time. If you look at the chances, I know the XG says differently. But again, you look at some of them and you think if these players are actually, confident, it felt like the build-up was great. I think Jack Harrison had a good game. I think Jack Harrison was our most dangerous player, and I think Jack Harrison deserves a lot of credit for how he did perform in the game. I think he's only got given a 6.5, but I felt like Harrison was the one down that right-hand side that was causing problems, that was beating players, that was, putting a little bit of pressure on. I felt like he was the one that if we were going to create a chance, he was the one that was going to create it. Again, I think the shot he had, again, from what I remember anyway, from watching it, it felt like he could have hit it near post. And instead of trying to curve it around the keeper, but again, there could have been someone there to block it. I don't remember it, frame by frame, who was there, who was positioned. But at the moment, it felt like he could have hit it near post. But again, a positive game for Harrison. I think he really impressed. And I just felt like the problem was, I think Calvert-Lewin was poor in this game, to be honest. He got some good headers on the ball. He took the ball down nice, but it just felt like he was never going to score. It felt like he was never actually going to put the ball in the back of the net this game. And I'm going to quickly take a drink. It just felt like we were in a position where there was really no option to score goals. We were getting the ball in the position countless times, and then whether it was a lack of finishing up front, whether it was good defending from Man United, good goalkeeping from Onana, it just felt like in that first half, if we weren't going to score then we weren't going to score at all, sort of thing. It really felt as if, we had our chances, they were put on a plate for us. And as soon as that second half started, it felt like, I don't know, it felt like there wasn't the same energy there. And it felt like that same spark from the team to try win this game was gone. And I think, if we're going to talk about this, another really bad game for Ashley Young at Everton. Another really, really bad game. And it's quite ironic that, I was just on the tab to click on Ashley Young to kind of highlight him. And then Erwin puts here, surely we drop Young now. Do you start Coleman or Patterson next game? You've got to. It's so many stupid mistakes. And we'll get into the whole penalty thing when we talk about the second half. We'll quickly go, what a poor result Garnacho's goal ended us. Yeah. I don't know if Garnacho's goal ended us in a sense, but it felt more like I feel like it was more we ended us in a sense where, or the forward play ended us in a sense that, sorry, there's no excuse that we didn't score in that first half. Oh, sorry, hiccups. There's no real excuse that we didn't score that first half. There's no excuse that it wasn't a more, the scoreline didn't dictate a closer game more in a sense, because we were, I think, comfortably the better side. I don't think Man United offered anything in that first half. Man United looked like a team who were closer to us in the league in a sense of that they're a team that might be fighting relegation or fighting for mid-table like we would have been if we didn't have the 10 points taken off of us. But, it felt like this Man United team had nothing to offer. And, besides a freak goal, because again, it's the story of the game. The lad scored one of the best goals in Premier League history to win his team the game. Because, that was the only spark Man United had in that first half. But, David puts here either Patterson or Coleman. Young's had a fantastic career, but he's probably more of a bench player now. That's it. It's no disrespect to Ashley Young, right? Because he's 38. He's naturally a winger, and... when you've got some of these players who are, I think Garnacho, who Young was marking, is literally half Young's age. If he's still 19, he's, quite literally half of Ashley Young's age. He's young enough to be Ashley Young's son. So it's one of those things where, yeah, you're surprised that Ashley Young got run ragged a bit, had to lunge in a little bit. But it's a thing where Young does this every game now, to the sense where, we were sat in the pub and my friend went, oh, one more booking for Ashley Young next game, and he misses the game. And I was like, good, in a sense, because he needs to go back to being the backup left back, to being a leader in the changing rooms, more of that sense. And I think Patterson should be given the chance, because in the end, is Patterson worse defensively than Ashley Young? No, he offers a lot more pace, a lot more energy. And again, I think that's just down to Ashley Young being 38 years of age, being an age where most people probably expected him to be a pundit by now, So it's one of those where it's hard to really to push it on him so much, because a 38-year-old shouldn't be playing consistent football this much. But then, Seamus Coleman was on the bench, and then of course, Patterson, who came on later in the game. And, David Pussy-Young would probably be a great coach. He probably would. You look at the managers he's played under, you look at the experience he has in winning titles, especially, you look at in his later career in Italy and those later years at Man United, that conversion over to left back. And, I think it was 2016-17 actually having a good season at left back in more of a wing back role. But, Young has got to be starting on the bench more consistently now. And shame that Beto was injured. It's one of those where I think Beto could have changed the game. I think the pace that he offered and the different dynamic to Calvert-Lewin could have really changed the game. But, before we go into the second half, I'll answer this. Cal, would you sign any positions in Jan? Would you sign any? Yeah, we have to. I don't know what the financial situation is going to be like with the 10-point deduction. Is that going to impact it? Are 777 even going to be taken over in January in a sense where where we will be able to bring anyone in? The one thing I can say is, of course, the bid got rejected for the whole loaning in player from feeder clubs. So if 7-7 take over, don't be surprised if it's loans from Sevilla. Don't be surprised if it's loans from or purchase from Hertha Berlin, from Vasco da Gama, from is it Cagliari or Genoa? One of them. Don't be surprised if it's stuff like that. But it's hard to really say. A full back, definitely. Probably a right back. If he doesn't trust Patterson to start, then we've got to go out and get a right back, whether that's on loan, maybe someone who's not playing consistent first in football, whether that's something along those lines. A midfielder, probably 2 midfielders. Or in January, I think I don't know what we're like we need to loan in a midfielder in January for AFCON. I think that's vital. I know we'll only have the ones I can think of. We'll only have Onana, Ghana, Dele Alli. That'll be it. That I can think of. You look at our bench. If I can scroll down a little bit and get the bench up here. You look at, they're the substitutes, but you look at the players on the bench. There's no real backup midfielder there. So with AFCON coming up, I think we're desperately going to need that. And I don't think another winger would hurt. A winger with real pace too, because I think that's what's causing us a lot of problems. Is down the wings. Both McNeil and Harrison are good players. I don't think Dyche trusts Danjuma really, and I think Danjuma's better in a central role, to be honest. But kind of the role that Decore plays, I think that suits Danjuma a little more. Like a second striker sort of thing. But I think a winger with real pace, like I'm talking a winger that can get the ball and just fly past you because he's so quick. I think that could really cause problems. And I know usually with that type of winger, they don't have much end product. But with the position we're in, the problem against Man United, I think, getting down the wings a lot was we don't have any pace down the wing. We've got 2 wingers who... Jack Harrison's not slow, and I'd say McNeil probably is quite slow for a winger, but we had nothing that could really punish anyone down the wing with speed, kind of like... for example, I picked someone like Adama Traore running Man United ragged that day. And the end product's not there with Adama, but just pure speed and power in a sense where... those Man United fullbacks aren't really quick, sure, decently quick. Dalot, not really. Both centre-backs move like trucks. So someone with that real speed who can... And again, even if they're coming off the bench, someone who can change a game like that with that game-changing speed and athleticism is something I think that the team will really benefit from. I think it's why Beto would have suited this game so well. But to be honest, though, in they're probably the positions, midfielder, a fullback, and maybe another winger. I think everywhere else is quite good. Maybe a backup goalkeeper if you worry Pickford, he's going to get hurt. Especially if we're having a decent cup run in the FA Cup too. If we can manage to beat Fulham and then even win the semi-final, making it to a cup final, what does that add? 8 or 9 games onto Pickford. One of those where I think that's what we're going to need. And then quickly, are you impressed with Bramford's performance? Will he stay at Everton long, although he did sign a long contract? Yeah, I'm very impressed. I think Bramford's been our best player ever since this, real surge and put his foothold in the team. I think he's our best player. Will he stay? Probably not, to be completely honest with you. I think this is going to be very similar to a John Stones situation where if we're not really pushing on in the league, and I mean pushing where we can get European positions, Brantford's going to have no ambition to stay. A team like Man United, Man City, maybe even will come in. And the market for centre backs right now, we got 50 for John Stones years ago. Don't be surprised if it's 80, 90. If we're in a better financial situation, if we're in the Premier League, I think again Brantford staying is massive on if we're in the league next season. Which, looking at the performances, I think we will be. I think it's going to be a long season, but I think it's going to be similar in a sense to a few seasons ago where we thought we were going to find a real good run of form, kind of knocked it on and David says Pickford is still at Everton. I think a young double-footed centre back, 6'5", technically gifted, is a lot more sought after being English as well than Pickford, and that's not a grout to Pickford. I think Pickford's one of the best goalkeepers in the league, but I think a lot of goalkeepers are decent. A lot of teams had decent goalkeepers when it looked like Pickford could have left. The only grouch really being Man United with De Gea. But, I think with De Gea, it was a loyalty thing and Man United weren't going to drop him. So I think that's why Pickford stayed. I think it's much harder for a goalkeeper to get those big moves, in my opinion, than it is for a centre-back who's got all the tools to be one of the best centre-backs. He's got all the physical aspects and the technical aspects are catching up to be one of the best centre-backs in the world, in my opinion. Centre-backs that are built like that, some more muscle on him, 6 foot, like I said, 6'5", can use both his feet, ball playing, smart. At that age, you don't find that. It's a very rare commodity for us. It wouldn't surprise me if Brantford can become one of the best centre-backs in the world. Just based on the potential and based on everything we've seen so far and the raw physical tools that he has as well. So I think, and then Owen puts, we are 1 or 2, we're an injury or two away from a proper meltdown, which is scary. I think that's bang on. I think that's it. And like I said, with AFCON coming up, then it could be a really scary time if changes aren't made or if someone doesn't step up, to be completely honest with you. Moving on to that second half anyway, I think the second half is where things really started to change. And I think it was where you see here Man United felt like they got their foothold into the game a little bit more. The first thing that we have to talk about, scroll all the way up here, is this. Less than 10 minutes into the second half. A stupid tackle from Ashley Young. I'm not going to go on for it for too long, but it was a brain dead tackle from Ashley Young. Martial takes an awful first touch, by the way, before going into the box, and Tarkowski clearly going to get there before Martial. It's a dreadful first touch from Martial. Sorry, I need to take a drink quickly. But yeah, it's a dreadful first touch from Martial. Tarkowski would probably have it quite clearly to get rid of it. Young sticks his foot out, stands on Martial's foot, and at first Martial's yellow carded for diving, which I thought it was. At first, I thought he dived, but looking at it again, looking at the VAR, he clearly stands on his foot. It's clearly a penalty, and it's just stupid from Ashley Young because it's unnecessary. I don't think it warranted the second yellow. I think the ref made the right decision there, but I just think it's a stupid mistake from Ashley Young. And then Bruno gives the penalty to Marcus Rashford. He needs that goal for confidence. Rashford, great penalty. Pickford goes the right way, but it's just one of those penalties that you're not going to save. 2-0 United, and after that, it felt like we were just throwing players forward. And at that point, that third goal just felt like it was coming, and it just felt like it was one of those ways it was going to come. And then, Martial, another, great confidence booster for United. Good finish from Martial to, kind of dink it at Pickford's near post while he's rushing out at him. I think it's a good finish from Martial, I think. And I think there's not really much to pick out in the second half from us in the sense of looking at it in a positive fashion, because I feel like the second half was when Man United realised now that they could take the game to us and we were going to give them chances because we needed to get back into the game and that we needed to take something from it. And at that point, Man United were able to pick us apart and really cause troubles. I think one mistake we made is I think we should have tried to get James Garner in the game more. I think you look at a player like that, he's a player who's really been able to dictate the pace for us, really being able to be a driving force in creating chances. And I think a majority of our times we just shrugged and went down the wing and didn't really know what to do. I think that goal really messed up with Sean Dyche's game plan, because if you look at everything else from that first half, you take away that free goal, that's a perfect first half for Sean Dyche in a sense where we've been on top. Man United have little to no confidence because they've had no chances. Without that Garnacho goal, that second half could be a huge difference. That goal from Garnacho was the confidence Man United needed to get back into the game. And then there was David says here, were the subs a bit late in your opinion? If we go back up here to actually get when the subs were made. Again, this is my biggest problem with Sean Dyche is the subs, because I think Sean Dyche has done a fantastic job. I think the style of play is a lot different to what a lot of people expected. I think a lot of people expected that Burnley football. We play a lot. I actually think we play some quite nice football. I think there was some points against United where we were playing those little first time passes, and I think it was Calvert-Lewin who almost scored it. But the fact, I think we flicked it through their entire team basically, and it was unbelievable build up. It was in the second half, I think. Late in the second half, I think, and it was someone. So it might have not been Calvert-Lewin at that point, but it was some absolutely unbelievable build-up, and I think it's just unlucky that we didn't score that. But yeah, I think the subs could have been a little earlier, probably after the second goal. To be completely honest with you, I think Danjuma, he didn't really impress when he came on, but I also think if you give him another 10, 15 minutes, he could have really done something. I think that was what we needed: someone with a bit more pace, someone a bit more direct, who could have really caused problems. And I think, again, Ashley Young was getting ripped apart. I think that Patterson should have been brought on earlier too. But it's one of those where it was a good game plan for Sean Dyche. Like I said, I think the first half anyway, I just think he got incredibly unlucky for that Garnacho goal. And it was one of those where it wasn't, like I said, it was one of those. But yeah, if I had to give one gripe against Sean Dyche this game, it's that the subs should have been made earlier anyway, to be completely honest. But I think, I don't really have a ton more to talk about from this game. I think there were players that impressed. I think Brownthwaite was very good again. I think Idrissa Gueye, besides that miss, actually had a pretty good game. I think Harrison was good. I don't know what FootMob's saying, giving Harrison such a low rating, to be honest, but with FootMob rating, sometimes I struggle to take them seriously. Yeah, I think there were a lot of signs, positive signs. I said to someone, if we play like that first half against Nottingham Forest, I think we win quite comfortably. And that's no gripe against Forest. I think Forest are a decent side, and Forest have proven that they can win games. But there's a real show that if we can go against a team that is technically top of the form table and really shut them out of the first half and not dominate the game, but be the comfortably better side, there's no reason we can't pick up points, even away at the City ground. I think, there's positives to take from the game in a sense where the scoreline looks worse than it actually was in a sense. But I think before we end up, Erwin says here, I'm sick of Dyche starting Young and then bringing Patterson on for the final 15. Yeah, I do think if Dyche really doesn't trust Patterson, then send him out on loan in January to a championship club, let him get consistent first team football for half of the season where he's going to start every game, which will help in his stead next season. Because a lot of people don't realise how little football Patterson's played. How little football Patterson has played in his career, really, and then bring him right back in on loan in January. I think if that's the case, if Sean Dyche doesn't trust him, because I think this persistence with Ashley Young, it's just going to get us hurt in the long run, in a sense where the top wingers are going to rip him to shreds. The mid-table wingers are going to have good games against him. It's one of those where it's a difficult one to really, take too much from it. But I think that's all I've got to say on my opinions of the game. I think there are positives to take from it, and I hope that they are taken. I hope Dyche can see the positives and take them into account next game against Forest away. But yeah, that's all from me today. If you did enjoy, please make sure to like the video. Please make sure to subscribe to the Toffee Blues and follow us on Twitter at Everton Newsfeed. Follow me on Twitter at Callum Brannan3, and I will see you all for the next stream or video that I'm on. Goodbye, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.